Jacqueline, publisher of Run Singapore. Today I have the privilege to have two very special guests to share a very special segment that's brought to you by Cambert Singapore. I have Natalie Dow, I think a very familiar face in the running scene. I think a lot of people who have seen her in races. She's also a very big sports influencer, I would say. Our very, podium runner too, that to join us on this segment to share a little bit on the insights of training for runners. And also I have Mr. Ho, General Manager of Cambert Singapore, somebody who has a big knowledge on supplements, which I think is going to share quite a bit of insights of tips, how good supplements could help, runners on this preparation. Well, Nat, this is like a marathon fever now, right? Everyone is probably prepping up for the Singapore Marathon happening in December. I think with the 4 months block, I think everyone's probably training more, and I think for runners generally, from novice to expert, very much we kind of know what our training blocks like. But supplementary care is something is always a little bit neglected. Yeah, so, tell me a little bit. Are you going to be running the Singapore Marathon this year in December?
Yeah, I think how can I not? Yeah, marathon fever is at an all-time high, and I think, pre-COVID levels, it's super exciting. Everyone's talking about it, and it's for a lot of people, it's the first race back in a very long time.
Yeah. So I think while seasoned runners know how to prep up, but maybe I think as a very, I would say a very seasoned runner yourself, what kind of training tips, you think you would give for a typical runner who's planning for their first marathon?
Yeah.
What kind of training blocks, you think? I think 4 months is quite adequate for a half marathon. I think full will be a bit of a challenge, but nothing's impossible. But how do you think? Maybe you could give a bit of tips to somebody who's probably running their first half marathon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I think number one, don't go out there and try and run a half marathon tomorrow, right? So, which a lot of people do, and then, discover that they're sore and never want to run again. So I think it's about being smart, building up slowly, understanding what a training plan looks like. So I always encourage people to get a coach, even if it's online, or follow an online program or something to give you some guidelines, because it's not just about going out and doing crazy runs every week. It's about build up, it's about speed work, and then knowing when to taper as well. So that's number one thing to think about for people that are, going to consider running the half marathon or even the 10K for some people that haven't run ever before. And then another one is thinking about things like, which we're going to talk about, nutrition and recovery as part of all of this. And most definitely you want to make sure you have a good base, because you're going to get injured if you just go out and run silly distances and go too hard and go too fast. So understanding that most of your training is going to be at a steady state. It's not going to be at the sprint level that most people think. So leave your ego at the door and really, try and get hold of a good training plan and follow that, because 4 months is enough time, and I think get out there and give it a go. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, but Mr. Ho, I think having to be in this line, I'm sure you also see that is also a big trend. And I think for runners, we are always looking at how we can do better. Not always just being able to perform at races. Actually, race is only one day, but training takes up maybe 95% of the time. You're training harder. I think this is something a lot of runners are kind of looking for, performance. I think whether you are a novice runner or you are a very seasoned runner yourself, you're always looking forward to kind of PB, or at least, do a good race, right? And I think training blocks will be the one. So what kind of, I think nutrition is one thing, we'll speak about it later, but what kind of supplement you reckon that you think as a runner, or whether does runners really need the supplements to really do, and what can supplements do for us? Yeah.
Of course, thanks Jack. Basically, supplements is really important, because what we need is actually additional supports from these supplements. As far as performance are concerned, we are looking at basically increase the strength, also reduce the sort of tiredness or soreness, in the muscle, because when you have soreness or you have tiredness that will prevent the next day's training. So when we look at performance, not just improving the strength, is very important of course, but then the more importantly is also helping the customer or helping the athletics to actually able to recover. They don't feel so tired, they don't feel so sore, so therefore next day they could continue to train. And like what Nat say, it's just not a day training, it takes probably months, years. So you need to have that stamina. You need to recover. You need to increase the strength day by day. You need to then in the evening you feel good. You don't feel so tired. The next day you feel fresh, refreshed, and then you go on with the next day training. That's wonderful, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of supplements that would able to increase strength, basically we look at supplements that could actually produce energy for us in the form of ATP. In our body, we use energy in the form of ATP, but then we take foods in the form of calories. So mainly calories that come from fat, which is a very important source of energy. Of course, we take good fat like the essential fatty acids, olive oil, for instance. They provide very good energy. But then we need our body to need some supplements to able to convert all this fat into energy. Another quick source of energy, of course, comes from carbohydrates, which is like glucose or bread that that people used to take, or then they have a glucose drink before they go for their trainings, and then you need to convert into ATP. These are all calories that we need to increase to convert to ATP fast. One of the ingredients that we always suggest people to use is astaxanthin. Astaxanthin basically is the red pigment found in algae, but in animal salt, mostly found in salmon. Salmon, the orange color flesh actually rich in these red pigments, which actually giving this salmon the extra energy to able to swim better, or even when they spawn, they actually salmon actually swim up up river streams to actually spawn their eggs. So that gives them energy to swim months before they go back to where they were born, and they start spawning there. So that giving
facts.
giving that salmon enough of energy, to able to swim without feeling tired. It's just like people running marathon, right? You run 10 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers.
and then running uphill is no
So you need that, you need that to actually give you that sustaining energy. And what's so good about astaxanthin and compared with the rest is astaxanthin will be one of the few ingredients or few natural products that actually able to convert fatty acids, fat, into energy. They are not fat burner, but they facilitate the fat, bring it into our mitochondria.
So like a catalyst.
Yes, it's like a catalyst, you're right. To convert that into ATP that we need. And therefore, you actually can see that, one, you can actually burn the fat, you get the fat turned into energy fast. And number two, you actually produce a high volume of energy for strength. And astaxanthin being a red pigment, they also reduce the soreness, tiredness, because it is it's the antioxidants. Very powerful antioxidants, much higher than vitamin C, probably like 6,000 times more, 1,000 times more than vitamin E as an antioxidants. So we actually reduce the inflammations or reduce the sort of like the soreness that I mentioned just now. So when you take astaxanthin the next day, you probably feel more refreshed, you feel less tired.
So I think like runners, we call it the DOMS, right?
The delay.
The delay onset muscle.
And muscle soreness.
Yes.
Correct. DOMS. So basically you can see that this is good, and at a dose of 12 milligrams a day, probably you take it like the 4 weeks at least before your competitions. Then you start taking it every day. You could start building your energy, start converting into
so
the
I could say in
ATPs
essence, actually kind of assists in a faster recovery for the athlete.
It does, because usually we always look at fatigue. The etiology of fatigue is building up of muscle glycogen. The glycogen in our muscle. So when there is a depletion of glycogen in our muscle, it is a etiology of fatigue. and attenuate these conditions is actually improving our strength.
Yeah.
You know,
And as a runner, you always want to burn fat first,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
You know, keep those fat stores burning as long as you
Precisely,
can before
yes.
the glucose.
Yes.
Yeah.
and that will give you the enhanced energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's great. Yeah. So astaxanthin, so it's like, I guess we don't call that performance, but I think what it helps is, I think that's what we need, right?
Yes.
When we train so hard, we want to be able to get up, the next day, or even a day of recovery, and then back on the next batch of training. We can train a little bit more efficiently.
Correct.
Yeah, and DOMS is really a
Yes.
pain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I muscle through,
Literally a
I muscle
pain.
through my training, through the sores. And, yeah, the way I manage sores is it's a good swim. Sometimes, when you get all your lactic acid all built up, a nice swim somehow kind of get the muscles all relax a little. Yeah. But now it's good to know that we have a product.
This is like, there are many studies that has been published for sports, especially like, there was one that just published recently in 2022, like putting on young men or young people who are at the age of 20s, and they were given 4 milligrams a day of astaxanthin for about 10 days before they actually test them on eccentric bench press. So what they tested was they gave the subjects in two groups. One is with the active, the other one is actually with placebo. And after 10 days, they start with baseline first. Then after that, they actually look at for 24, 37, 72 hours later, and see number one, the strengths, like repetitions of how many that you can go until you fail.
Yeah.
And then they also measure the soreness, the DOMS, the DOMS parameter from 10 to 6, what kind of level of soreness that you see. And they found that people who take that, with the 10-day supplementations in young people, they can see that the people who actually started to take 10 days before they actually go on the test, they could see that number one, their strength increased, they could do more strength, they could do more press, they could carry more weight. Number two, they actually feel that they have less soreness. So there was there are many clinical trials, and there are one actually done on 12 milligrams a day. They're able to see that within 6 weeks, if you take 12 milligrams of astaxanthin a day, then after 6 weeks, they actually test on the energy produced. At the same time, they also measure their body fat percentage. And significantly compared with placebo, those who take astaxanthin see a lower body fat percentage. And that shows that actually when these people has increase of energy, it actually comes from body fats.
Yeah.
When we have not enough of glycogen in our muscle, or not enough of sort of energy or oxygen when we overtrain ourselves, then the second source of energy, which is the glycogen store of muscle, will start to burn, and they form lactic acids, which is what we do want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because lactic acid will cause that soreness that we do not want.
Cramps,
The
right?
cramps maybe. So what happened is that they actually found that the muscle glycogen was spent. That means that when you take astaxanthin, you do not, when someone actually who train very hard, they actually do not actually use the glycogens, and they use the source of body fats. And therefore, the body fat percentage reduced, strength increased, but muscle glycogen was there. That was the parameter we always use to actually look at someone's whether they are fatigued or not. Yeah.